Greetings, everybody. Chris Hislop from the Montana World Affairs Council. This is another session of Global Perspectives on Security, where we dig a little bit deeper on the news of the day to see what is going on. And what has been going on for the past couple months, of course, has been in and around the Ukraine. We're joined again by our good friend from the Lobo Institute, Mick Mulroy. Mick is the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Middle East, a retired CIA paramilitary operations officer and United States Marine. He's a national security analyst and co-founder of the Lobo Institute and a board member at the Plato Institute in Athens, Greece. Mick, nice to see you again. Every couple of weeks we get together and try to catch up to understand what's going on around the world and, of course, what's going on in and around Ukraine. So, Mick, let me kick it off a little bit by the latest news. Of course, there are many points, but the one I'd like to pick up is support to the Ukraine from the United States and other NATO members, both in terms of hardware, arms, and intel. Mick, what is happening there, and how is this affecting the battle space?
Well, Chris, great to be with you again. Essentially, we're moving, just like we're moving between phases in this conflict. We had the phase that was the failure by the Russians in the north to take the capital city of Kyiv, moving into this other phase in the Donbas and then on the coast. We're also in different stages when it comes to our support. So the first stage was primarily small man-portable weapons like the Javelin and the Stingers that could give the small special operations forces for the Ukrainians to be able to really depreciate tanks and aircraft. Now we're moving into the Donbas, which is a region, it's very flat, it's very open, it's described to be like Kansas. And it's going to be a force-on-force conventional fight. So we're trying to give the Ukrainians armored personnel carriers, transport helicopters like the Mi-17, and a lot of heavy artillery, the M114, which is 155 millimeter artillery that we use in the United States. So they have to be trained on it. But these that's the new phase of weapon systems going in. The Defense Secretary Austin had a meeting in which he tried to coordinate all of the weapons and ammunitions that are coming from NATO allies to make sure that they're getting what they can use first. So not to clog up the logistical supply lines with stuff they can't use. And so it's a very coordinated effort. And it's a race against time, quite frankly, because this is a war of logistics as much as it's a war of anything else.
So we had Foreign Minister Lavrov come in on this, and we saw that there were some strikes on different transportation hubs in and around Ukraine, targeting what we assume, or what I read to be, those channels through which these arms are flowing. Mr. Lavrov then saying, this is a proxy war, ergo these targets are legitimate. Mick, what is your perspective on that?
Well, I think that the use of the term proxy is problematic and quite frankly not accurate. Proxies generally mean some kind of clandestine relationship, not one you overtly discuss. Think Hezbollah and Iran, and one in which the proxy is being directed to do something by the master, if you will. What we have in Ukraine and the US is a partnership. We are overtly supporting Ukraine. We have open meetings about it. The president has press conferences on it from the White House. And Ukraine is obviously doing what's in their own interest, which is defend their country against this invasion. So we're not having to direct them to do anything. We're simply supporting them openly as we should. They're a partner. And quite frankly, if Russia does not want us to send them equipment, then they should withdraw and end their campaign to attack a sovereign country.
Mick, we hear a lot about the support via the hardware. Can you tell us a little bit about the things maybe we're not hearing on the sharing of intelligence?
Yes, and to be clear, so I don't get in trouble from my past colleagues, I don't know this as a result of talking to them. It's been reported in the news, and and I'm discussing it from that perspective. According to many news reports, one from NBC, the intelligence has been incredibly effective in our support to the Ukrainians. One, it's beyond anything that we normally do with non-NATO partners. Obviously, within NATO, we share a lot of intelligence, but not necessarily outside. So this is extraordinary in that. And it's, according to these reports, been very helpful in helping the Ukrainians target where the Russians are or where they're going to be, which is even more impressive. It's one thing to be able to see, a tank formation and pass them the grids. It's another to actually intercept information that allows us to predict where the Russians are going to be and get the Ukrainians to target that. And then vice versa, where we're telling the Ukrainians that the Russians are about to target them and they move. According to reports, both of those have been very effective. And then the final part is where we are doing everything we can to help President Zelensky essentially stay alive. He has been a very heroic leader in this and has really stayed his post. I think if this is true and the reports are accurate, it's exactly what we should be doing. But it really shows a remarkable intelligence cooperation.
Mick, all over the past couple months, you and I have had the chance to look into the crystal ball. And I'd say that, for you, an expert analyst, your colleagues and others in the media, it's been relatively accurate and I guess relatively, can I say, predictable in how things have gone, except for a number of points, i.e. I don't think anybody expected the Ukraine to hold on this long and put up the fight that it did. Now, I'd like to just ask you, in the current events, we see the concentration in the Donbas region, the movement, in and through Mariupol, and now the talk of Transnistria in Moldova on the western border as a way to cut Ukraine off from the sea and somehow consolidate Russian gain. Is this what can we say about a prediction of a Russian sweep through southern Ukraine into Moldova?
So it is, Chris, very troubling, right? So there's one thing, obviously the whole thing's troubling, but in the Donbas, they take some territory. The Ukrainians can concede that and then fight back and then start some kind of insurgent effort in there. But when you seal off what you're talking about on the southern coast, going from, Mariupol, attaching to Crimea, then going on to Kherson, Mykolaiv, Odessa, and then it's the Transnistria region of Moldova, which is another sovereign country. And they've already announced their intentions. So, it's not like we have to really ruminate too long on what they intend to do. They told us if that is what they intend to do, then they intend to invade yet another country. We can already see indications by the attacks, potentially false flag attacks, that are happening in that region, in which Russia will probably then come and say, we have to send troops in to save all the Russian speakers. So that's a big concern. It would be an expansion beyond Ukraine, and it's completely unacceptable. So whether they're going to be able to do it, we haven't seen a lot of evidence that they're capable. Even in Mariupol, where they've surrounded the city for quite some time, they seem to either be unwilling or unable to actually finalize that by an assault on the city. The Ukrainian Marines have held out, almost as if it's Thermopylae, but they haven't lost. So unlike the Spartans at Thermopylae, they're still holding out, and the Russians are not actually sealing and taking that city. But it's very problematic. Ukraine produces a great deal of the world's wheat and basic calories. In fact, between Russia and Ukraine, I saw a statistic that said 12% of the world's calories come from Russia and Ukraine. So if they seal off Ukraine and cut that capacity off, it could still go through Poland, I assume, but it would be expensive. And then Russia is not allowed to sell things due to sanctions. It does cause a major impact on everybody. So you'll start seeing that in the price of food, obviously in the price of goods because of fuel costs. But it's a very concern. I don't think we're going to do everything we can to stop it, and the Ukrainians have shown that they have the willingness and the capability to stop it. So it's not a done deal.
Mick, thank you so much once again for giving us your perspective on this and so many other points of a very complex situation. I'd like to very quickly thank the Dennis and Phyllis Washington Foundation, Stockman Bank, and Allegiance, who help us bring this and so many more programs to you. Now, Mick and I will touch base every week or two to give an update on the things that are going on beyond the headlines. And for those of you who are interested in more information, Mick Mulroy, again, is from the Lobo Institute. He does a lot of analysis and comments on a number of national and international news sources. Google Mick and you'll get some of the most cogent and accurate analyses on this and other issues. So Mick, we're incredibly happy and so pleased that you could join us here at the Montana World Affairs Council. So let's kind of pencil it in for another week or two and touch base again. Sound good?
Sounds good, Chris. Absolutely.
All right.
Let's
Thanks
plan
again,
on it.
Nick. And thank you all for watching. Be well. Bye-bye.